Anybody who's ever played sports and had to compete for a spot, for a guy to put their kid on it, it happens all the time, and it's wrong. It's wrong in Little League. It's wrong in high school. It's wrong in college. And it's wrong in the pros. Anybody who's honest, the only reason that people didn't go out and go off on LeBron is because he's a star. And they don't want the wrath or be able to say, well, LeBron stopped me from doing this, or I can't get tickets to the Lakers, or like they're afraid.
Rob Parker didn't just criticize LeBron James this time. He unloaded. And the reason this conversation is exploding right now is because it touches a nerve that sports fans understand better than almost anything else: earning your spot. When Rob Parker called out LeBron and Bronny James over nepotism, he wasn't dancing around the issue. He said what a lot of people have been thinking, but were too scared to say out loud.
Bronny, soon as he was drafted, became the poster child for nepotism in sports.
So here's the real question. If this was any other player in the NBA, not named LeBron James, would Bronny James even be on a roster right now? Drop your honest take in the comments.
It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Between working a job where people do nepotism is bad. So I'm the first one to say it. What Danny Ainge's doing is bad. Nepotism is bad. A lot of companies won't even allow it because it is bad. I don't believe the Utah Jazz should hire Danny Ainge's son. So I'll be the first one on the record. But when it comes to athletics and you having to compete to get on the field.
Rob Parker's argument is simple but uncomfortable. Nepotism is wrong. It's wrong in Little League, wrong in high school, wrong in college, and wrong in professional sports. The only reason people didn't go harder at LeBron for getting Bronny drafted is because LeBron is a superstar. People are afraid of the backlash, afraid of being frozen out, afraid of losing access. And whether people want to admit it or not, that fear shapes the conversation around LeBron more than his fans will ever acknowledge.
Michael Jordan owned the damn team. He didn't put his two sons on the team. He could have. And Bronny's not right, and he proved this year he's not ready for the NBA. He's a marginal player at best.
The comparison Rob Parker made hit especially hard. Michael Jordan owned an NBA team. He literally had the power to put his sons on the roster if he wanted to. He didn't. Jerry Jones owns the Dallas Cowboys. He could have put his sons in uniform and said, they're just end-of-the-bench guys. He didn't. Because once you cross that line in competitive sports, it stops being about fairness and starts being about favoritism. And that's where the Bronny situation becomes different from a normal office job or front office hire.
If this was anybody else, if this was anybody other than LeBron James, he'd be ridiculed trying to get his son in the NBA.
Of course.
We saw it down with Urban Meyer trying to get Tim Tebow a job as a tight end. Right? His next door neighbor, his friend. And the player said, F no, he's no good. There's 20 kids in college who played tight end who deserved that job.
They were going
and what happened? Tim Tebow didn't get a job because it wasn't right. And Bronny's not right, and he proved this year he's ready? He's not ready for the NBA. He's a marginal player at best. I refuse to sit here and act like it's okay. It ain't the same thing as a job. If I own a store or I own something, that you people hire people all the time. It still ain't right. I just said that from the jump.
Okay.
Nepotism ain't right.
Okay.
Unless you own a family store and you can hire whoever you want if it's your business.
Now, defenders of the move love to say it was only the 55th pick, as if that somehow erases the problem. But that argument actually makes things worse. Second-round picks usually don't get guaranteed deals. They don't get long-term security. They don't get special treatment. Bronny James did. Not because of production, not because of college dominance, but because of his last name. And that's not hate, that's reality. People want to bring up the cardiac arrest situation, and as human beings, everyone is glad Bronny is healthy. That's not the issue. The issue is basketball readiness. Even without that incident, Bronny was not ready to leave college. He wasn't dominating. He wasn't separating himself. He didn't look like an NBA-ready player. And when he finally got NBA minutes, he looked overwhelmed, nervous, lost, like a deer in headlights. That's not development. That's being thrown into the fire before you're ready.
A Western Conference executive spoke to Athlon Sports about Bronny James. And during the conversation, he said, quote, that he expects Bronny to be a regular in the rotation next season. 10, 15 minutes. Talked about his offseason growth from summer league to start of the season and the end of the regular season. So he's expecting that Bronny is going to be getting regular minutes with the big club next year. What's interesting about that is Bronny, soon as he was drafted, became the poster child.
What really fueled the nepotism debate was what happened next. A Western Conference executive told Athlon Sports that Bronny is expected to be a regular rotation player next season, possibly getting 10 to 15 minutes a night. That's where fans stopped giving LeBron the benefit of the doubt. Because now it's not just about giving your son a shot, it's about giving him meaningful minutes on a team that claims it wants to win championships. And that's where the hypocrisy comes in. Around the same time, the Utah Jazz hired Danny Ainge's son, Austin Ainge, into a major front office role. Rob Parker called that nepotism too, and he was right. But here's the difference people keep ignoring. Austin Ainge isn't taking minutes from anyone on the court. He's not competing against players who spent their entire lives grinding for a roster spot. Front office nepotism is bad, but on-court nepotism directly affects competition, livelihoods, and fairness. That's why sports have always been different. Once the color barrier was broken, sports became the ultimate meritocracy. You can't fake your way onto the court. You can't hide when the ball tips off. And when someone who doesn't belong is out there, everybody sees it. That's why this situation bothers players, former players, and fans who actually competed for something. Rob Parker also touched on something people avoid saying. LeBron's power changes how people talk. Media members walk on eggshells. Analysts soften their takes. Nobody wants to be the one who suddenly loses access or gets labeled as anti-LeBron. But now that LeBron is closer to the end of his career, more people are finally speaking freely. And the timing is not a coincidence. This isn't about hating Bronny James. It's about protecting him from embarrassment. If LeBron really wanted what was best for his son, he would have told him the truth. Stay in college, develop, go to the G League, earn it. Because once you step onto an NBA floor before you're ready, the league doesn't wait for you to catch up. It exposes you. The scary part is, this might not end with Bronny. If LeBron can get one son into the league without being ready, what happens when Bryce comes along? If he's not prepared either, the backlash will be even worse. And at some point, this stops being about opportunity and starts being about entitlement. Rob Parker said what a lot of people feel but won't admit. Nepotism in sports is different. It hits harder. It feels dirtier. And when it puts someone on the court who doesn't belong there yet, it disrespects every player who had to earn that jersey the hard way. LeBron James didn't just give his son a chance. He put him under a spotlight he wasn't ready for. And that might be the biggest disservice of all. And this is where the conversation really separates casual fans from people who actually played the game. Anyone who's ever competed knows the locker room sees everything. Players know who belongs and who doesn't. You can't hide behind a last name when the ball tips off. And when someone is getting minutes they didn't earn, it creates resentment, even if nobody says it publicly. That resentment doesn't just affect Bronny either. It affects the young guys fighting for their careers. The undrafted players, the second-round picks, the G League grinders who are one injury away from a real shot. When one of those spots goes to someone because of influence instead of production, that's a dream taken away from someone else. People keep saying, well, the 55th pick doesn't matter. That's an excuse. Every roster spot matters. Every contract matters. Every minute matters, especially for players on the edge of the league. The NBA isn't a charity. It's the highest level of basketball on the planet, and the standard should never be lowered for anyone. And let's be honest, Bronny didn't help his case when he finally got opportunities. This was supposed to be the moment where he proved everybody wrong. Weak draft, low expectations, minimal pressure. And still, he looked overwhelmed. No confidence, no aggression. That's not development, that's exposure. That's why people pushing the just be patient narrative are missing the point. Development is earned in college, in the G League, in practice, not under NBA lights when you're clearly not ready. Throwing him into real games didn't help the Lakers, and it didn't help Bronny either. The Lakers say they're trying to win championships. They say Luka is the future. They say expectations are high. But those words don't line up with the decisions being made. You can't talk about titles and then hand out rotation minutes as favors. That's not how winning organizations operate. And this is why the Michael Jordan comparison keeps coming up. Jordan had the power, he had the influence, he had ownership, and he still didn't do it. That tells you something. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do as a parent is say, "You're not ready yet." The scariest part of all this is the silence, the media hesitation, the selective outrage. If this was any other player, this would have been a league-wide scandal. But because it's LeBron, people look away. And that double standard is exactly why fans are fed up. None of this means Bronny can't eventually be an NBA player. Maybe with time, development, and real reps, he becomes a solid role guy. But that journey should have been earned, not accelerated. You don't skip steps at this level without consequences. So whether people like it or not, Rob Parker forced an uncomfortable but necessary conversation. Sports are about competition. They're about merit. And once that line gets blurred, the game loses something. The question now is simple. Does the NBA still believe in earning your spot, or does your last name matter more than your game? What makes this situation even tougher is that it puts Bronny in a no-win position. If he struggles, people say he doesn't belong. If he plays well, they'll still say he only got there because of his dad. That's not fair to him as a young player, and it's exactly why rushing this process was a mistake from the start. LeBron has always preached about doing things the right way, about accountability, work ethic, and legacy. That's why this decision feels off-brand for so many fans. When you're the most influential player of a generation, your choices set examples, whether you want them to or not. There's also a long-term impact the league needs to think about. Once fans start believing roster spots are favors instead of earned, trust erodes. And when trust erodes, the product suffers. Sports survive on the belief that the best players are the ones on the floor. The truth is, most people don't hate nepotism because they're bitter. They hate it because they've lived through it. They've been passed over, overlooked, or cut while watching someone else get an opportunity they didn't deserve. That frustration doesn't disappear just because the name on the jersey is famous. At the end of the day, this isn't about tearing Bronny down. It's about protecting the integrity of the game. Because once competition stops being sacred, basketball turns into something else entirely, and nobody wants to watch that. And with all that said, I want to hear from you. Do you think Bronny James truly earned his place in the NBA? Or was this a clear case of nepotism being pushed too far? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you appreciate real conversations without filters. And subscribe to the channel because we're going to keep calling it how it is. No fear, no favoritism, just basketball.